It's Sunday, November the 2nd, 25, and I just want to talk about the rise of the Greens under Zack because in a Find Out Now poll, who are always an outlier poll, they always have reform much higher than all the other pollsters, or most of them. They're usually the highest of the pollsters for reform, and the lowest for Labour. They had Labour under 20%, well, quite a few weeks ago, at 19%. But now, for the first time ever, we've had the Greens higher than Labour, and it is a Find Out Now poll. And personally, I think Find Out Now is probably the ones that are most spot on. Not spot on, most accurate, probably. Because I think they're using a different mythology. I don't think they use the don't knows as much as the others do. So I think this is from the 30th of October. Reform 32%, Greens 17%, Labour 16%. I made this with grok images, so I've just taken what I've got. But yeah, this is just a incredible thing. To me, it's like 30 years too late. I mean, the last time Labour were really socialist was under Michael Foot in 1983 when he lost the election. Although they did have Jeremy Corbyn for 4 years and nearly won with one of the biggest votes ever. I mean, I think Theresa May got one of the biggest votes ever in 2017 to fend off Jeremy Corbyn, but she didn't have enough for a majority. So it just goes to show us how our democracy systems, it's not a democratic. We've got a worse system, as I always say. Like Labour will tell you that if we leave the European Court of Human Rights, it'll just be us, Russia and Belarus, whereas the first past the post system in Europe, it's just us in Belarus that use it. But you don't hear Labour MPs going on about that, especially Keir Starmer, you know. There's no chance he's going to do that. Anyway, so yeah, this is a sort of big moment, really. I mean, Find Out Now are the only ones currently in this situation, and it only happened this week. But personally, I think they're probably correct. But I really don't know why socialists haven't been voting Labour for decades, really. You know, because really, once Neil Kinnock got in, the party sort of changed. I mean, I can see why people maybe stayed, but really, the activists and stuff, they should have all went to the Greens. And I see that Sarah Sultana was saying, don't vote Green, vote your party this week. She was giving lots of reasons, but I don't think her reasons were fair. In fact, I thought it was a bit mean of her to say that, because she was at some sort of conference with Zack about 3 weeks ago or something. I suppose she's worried that they'll eat up all your party's pizza, basically, which they should, in my opinion. I think Zack Polanski's a better leader. And we don't know how your party's going to go, you know. Seems looking a very strange party at the moment. But anyway, so let's take a look at this. This is from the Green Alex channel on X account. And it's showing you, like in under 40s, the Greens are up 8% to 40% and Labour are down 9 to 21. So this is 18 to 24-year-olds. I mean, I have no idea why young people would go for Labour rather than the Greens, you know, because, well, for one thing, personally, I think, I mean, I would probably vote Green. I don't believe in parties or party hampers, but I would probably vote Green, and I think Nicola Sturgeon would as well. That was the sort of vibe I was getting. But yeah, so I don't know why this didn't happen decades ago. I mean, why is it taking this for the young people to vote Green rather than Labour? Because everything about the Greens is nice. And I heard some lady on one of the lefty channels on YouTube this week. She turns up in Nevada Media and turn left and that. And she's a member of the Green Party. I don't know whether she's just went there or not. Because I get the feeling she was probably a former socialist activist, but I don't actually know. But that's the vibe I get. And she's saying that the vibe amongst the meetings is so nice. You know, they don't have the conflict that they have in Labour thingies. You know, because they're all about, seem to be all about idolatry and hating, I suppose, hating other groups. Yes, so yeah, especially because I think if you're in one of these sort of activist groups and the jargon they use is maybe a warning sign, they call each other brother, or they talk about what was it they talk about? I can't remember the other stuff, but you get the idea. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know why it's taken so much to shift to the Greens, but again, they've gone by idolatry of Zack this time. He rightly says that Greens need to be more in your face, especially on social media, because he's doing old media as well, but he says social media especially, um, because that's where people get their information now, like personally like me, I don't watch the BBC or Question Time or anything like that, and I follow politics very closely, I think, but I don't follow the sort of propaganda places now. I'm not even talking about the BBC, just, yeah, in general, even GB News now, they've got sort of, to please Ofcom, they've got sort of views from the other side, which I just can't be bothered with. So I don't really watch GB News anymore either, but I support GB News. There's still a lot of good people on there, like Patrick Christie's and Martin Dubney, Ben Leo, those type. Yeah, so once they get Michael Portillo and all that, and that was me finished, it went downhill, I thought. Yeah, so this is amongst 24-year-olds, and Reform are up, and they're at 12%, they're up 5, so that's good to see. Well, I think 18 to 24-year-olds are going to be at the coalface of how Britain's changing, because people think, oh, well, it's still 76% traditional Brits. That's including 80-year-olds and 70-year-olds, You've got to look at under 30-year-olds and primary school and stuff like that, Probably a lot of them it's like 50-50 or even more changed now. So, yeah. So it is ironic for me as well. I can see why people are voting the Greens, but I don't know why it took this so much. It took sort of fireworks and stuff to get them, fireworks and glitter and stuff, rather than common sense. I mean, Keir Starmer's like the worst Prime Minister ever. I mean, he's the only one I've ever disliked, and he's like John Major without the fairness and sort of, I don't even know what I was saying the other thing, but he's not even likeable, he's like a strict dad that when you grow up you think, well, he was strict, but he was unfair as well, and it wasn't fair. It's not as if you grow up and you think, oh, he's strict, but he was fair. It was for the best. No, actually, it's not under Keir. So yeah. So let's take a look at a few other things. Yeah, there was a council election in Tunbridge Wells this week. A council by-election, electing a councillor. I think this is one of the richest and sort of La Boheme places in Britain, Tunbridge Wells. So the Lib Dems have 53%. I mean, I can't understand it myself. I mean, I have voted Lib Dem in the past because I think of them as nicer than Labour. I mean, a lot of people have said that Lib Dems are more socialist than Labour, including even Anne Widdecombe, I think. She thought the future would be Lib Dem versus Reform, but I think it's going to be Reform versus Green the way things are going. But Lib Dem seem to have their area as well. But I'm wondering if Lib Dems is sort of flight areas, where people are moving away from cities and things, and with a caveat. I'm wondering if that might be, because it seems to be the southwest of England, central England apart from the cities, that sort of thing. And some of the inner cities are going for green now, which I can't understand either. I mean, I can in a way, if it is typical voters that I used to think of, like uni voters, but I mean, unis aren't like that anymore in a lot of ways. They are and they aren't. They do. It's not. It's not an overall thing now. There's two. You've got two big things going on. Whereas in old days, if they were all greens, it would be green for a green reason, really, and it would be across the board. Whereas now it might be two things, two separate things. So yeah, who's Twa? Twa and Conservative 7.6. So Yeah, you've got Reform doing pretty well there anyway. 15% they were down a bit, but Tunbridge Wells, like I say, is like a sort of. I don't know if it's ever been Labour. I don't know. I'm going to look at the past. Well, it was a Tory area for the MPA anyway, for the whole area, up until 2024 when the Lib Dems won it. The first non-Conservative MP since the seat's creation in 1974. And as for the councils, well, it was Tory up until 94, and then it started changing. No overall control. Then you had the Lib Dems for a while. Then the Tories were back in for a long while, but no overall control. But now 2024, the Lib Dems. I'm going to ask why it switched to Lib Dem. I'm just asking it why it switched. I mean, I'm wondering if it's for one reason in particular, but we're not allowed to talk about stuff in Britain, you know. In Britain, we're allowed to use all our knowledge and experience to predict things for 99.9% of things, apart from one thing where we're just to think it's going to be a utopia. And if you don't think that, you might be under arrest, basically. So it's to do with national political trends, local issues, and subtle but impactful demographic and socio-economic changes. So they're saying they lost it because the blue wall collapsed in 2024. Since in the 24 general election and increasingly in local elections since 2021, many voters who traditionally voted Tory or who are typically anti-Labour switched to the Lib Dems as the most credible challenger. Yeah, I never really thought of that. There's a lot of these areas would have been former Tory areas, and they won't switch to Labour because of football team reasons, but they will go for the Lib Dems, just as even though long term they'll probably go against them as well. So it's more an anti-Tory thing. National dissatisfaction. Brexit context. Oh yeah, I think Tunbridge Wells was one of the highest pro-EU places. It voted to remain, say 55% remain. Well, it's not that high really. Yeah, local issues. The political shift at local area, local financial and development issues. So they were going to build a new theatre council office for 77 million, and the Lib Dems were against it. So I'm wondering if it never get built. Then local management and demographic and socio-economic change. Elite-based social polarisation. Academic research identifies Tunbridge Wells as an area experiencing elite-based polarisation. This dynamic is critical. Squeezed middle, while a wealthy town, there is a perception of a shrinking and squeezed middle-income group. Antagonism towards elites. High educational attainment, yeah, that's another reason that people seem to have switched to Labour and Lib Dems. I don't know why. Highly educated population, which is often a democratic indicator for increased political volatility and willingness to vote across party lines. Degree educated voters, highly educated, moving away from the Tory party in the South East and gravitating towards the Lib Dems or Labour, depending on the local challenger. They are more likely to be motivated by socially liberal issues and less tied to traditional loyalties. And I would say even probably say economy, to do with tax and things probably. Ageing population but stable based. The shift is less about a massive influx of new young liberal voters and more about a change in voting behaviour among the existing educated professional class who feel politically alienated from the national Tory platform. So, yeah, that was interesting. This is an aggregate poll from the Green Alex channel, and we can see Really, the Greens were doing pretty well, around about 9%, maybe 8%, um, until Zack came along, and now they're way up in the aggregate polls at the moment to about 13%, I would say there. Same as the Lib Dems. The Tories have dropped right down. This is from July 24 to now. And there's a rise of reform. I mean, you can see at the general election they were around about, just after that they were about 16%, and then now they're way up 31% in the aggregate polls. So that's not just one poll. And there's Labour. Look at that, it's gone from like 36% down to about 19 there. Here's this poll. So, I mean, that's remarkable. I mean, you could call it a one-horse race, or you could call it a five-horse race, really. And I know that Zach Balanski's really into proportional representation. It's one of the main things I think should happen, as do I. I would go further. I think we need to be like Switzerland, direct democracy, referendums as much as possible. Yeah. So, because he joined the Lib Dems first, and then one time he was debating, and it was actually Keir Starmer, the 2015 election, I think. Keir Starmer and the leader of the Greens, I think. And he was thinking, when the Green was talking, he was thinking, well, he was thinking Keir was rubbish, and then he was thinking Natalie Bennett, the Greens leader, was actually, she's talking a lot of sense, and he switched to the Greens. And I would totally agree with him on that, really, in general, not all. I mean, there's one thing, and there's one big Achilles heel for the Greens, which makes it impossible to vote for them, in my opinion, at the moment. I would say, especially if you care about women's rights, ironically, using that as a marker, as an emotional marker, to make my point. I mean, using the Find Out Now poll and using the electoral calculus predictor, this is what Green Elects reckon the Find Out Now poll means. They would win 47 new seats, and that would be a total of 51 seats in Parliament. And it would include Barking, Birkenhead, that's in Liverpool, isn't it? Barking, London, Brighton. I'm surprised I've not got them already, but probably will. It's probably Labour at the moment. Bristol, Cambridge, Cardiff. See, this sort of inner city, I would never have expected Cardiff to go, but from Labour as well. Almost all of them are from Labour, apart from one or two Tory seats. London, I think. Manchester, is that? Gordon. London, Harrow, near London. Huddersfield. I mean, it's amazing. Islington, Leeds, loads of Leeds seats. I mean, I thought Leeds was a sort of working class Labour place, so I don't really understand that at all. Apart from, I can understand. I mean, as I say, there's two main groups I can see going to them. One group might be using them as a sort of Trojan, because their area is not concentrated enough to vote identity. Say, Blackburn can vote identity more and more, and they can all vote away from Labour, basically. But some will vote away from Tories in the future, I think. They're currently Tory, but you've got to be concentrated for that to happen. If not, then you can vote for a sort of, what you could see as a Trojan party, basically, and the Greens would be perfect for that, because they think no one is illegal, really, so everyone welcome, that sort of thing. Leicester East gained from the Conservatives, so that's a surprise. I'm going to look that one up. So this is Keith Faz's former seat, so there might be something that Labour don't want traditional Labour voters to take on. Maybe that's what's a thing to hear, The shift from a safe Labour seat to a marginal and eventually a Tory gain is due to three main factors. So it's went from Tory, even though you would think that people socially, economically, would be a traditional Labour area. Oh, that's right. Is this a place where Thingy lost his seat? No, it's not actually. He lost it to a quote independent, I think. That Labour guy. he's always been there to call traditional Brits to say, don't be afraid. I'm saying it nicely here. He's calling them a word to stop them being anxious. You're not allowed to be anxious. And now he's got voted out for an independent candidate of a certain, who might appeal to a certain group in particular. Yeah. So it's went to a safe Labour seat to a marginal and eventually a Tory gain. Fragmentation of the Labour vote and local scandals. Single biggest factor was former long-standing Labour MP Keith Faz resigned in scandal before the 2019 election, but they still elected Labour the next time. So 2019 they got Claudia Webb, who proved highly divisive. She was the one who, I don't know, there was some sort of, she got charged with something, and I think she got found guilty, but didn't lose her seat because she didn't get a long enough sentence, or if any sentence at all. So she got removed from the Labour Party. Proved highly divisive, particularly among the large community of Indian heritage. There we go, that's in bold letters, which makes up a significant part of the Asian population in the area. So maybe even if she hadn't been, she was still the Labour candidate, maybe she would have still been the Tories again anyway. The split by 24 election, both the previous MP Keith Faz for one Leicester and the 2019 MP Claudia Webb as an independent stood against the official Labour candidate, splitting the Labour-aligned vote base into three separate groups. So high ethnic diversity and geopolitics. Leicester East is one of the UK's most ethnically diverse constituencies, with an extremely high percentage of residents of South Asian heritage, around 68%, primarily of Indian, but also Muslim and Sikh faiths. Communal tensions between the Hindu and Muslim communities in Leicester, which led to civil unrest in late 22, were an underlying political factor. International issues. The 24 election saw a significant decrease in the Labour vote in areas with large Muslim populations, largely due to dissatisfaction over the party's stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict. While the effect was seen across many multi-ethnic seats in Leicester East, this discontent only compounded the local issues, pushing voters to other options. Demographic impact on the Green vote. While the Greens did not win, the fact they achieved a noticeable portion of the vote. I mean, they didn't get it last year, right enough, in the general election. Maybe they mostly went for Keith Faz, I would imagine. I don't know, let's see. So let's look at the rest of it. In essence, the Tory win was not a sudden embrace of Tory ideology, but an opportunistic victory achieved because the Labour vote completely fractured and split across multiple candidates. Well, looking at it, I mean, if the Claudia had done pretty well. I mean, she got 5,500. She was nearly second. Keith Faz get 3,600 despite all the things he's been involved in, all the controversies. Their reform, they picked their candidate and they get 5.6%, but the Green Party didn't do that well. Other independents, 1,700, so that was quite a good vote as well. I mean, the Tories only get 31% of the vote, so the Tories, they picked their candidate and they got elected. Labour picked their candidate, as did the Lib Dems. And I'm surprised at Claudia Webb doing so well, Keith Faz wasn't a surprise, really, no matter what, Here's looking at the independent candidates for the 2024 election. No, that's not. Wait a minute. Here's the 5 independents. So, I mean, you can see by the names who they're. Well, you can't tell what. That would be wrong to say that. Claudia Webb, I think, probably get the far left vote, probably from traditional Labour activists, because she seems to be. They seem to repost her in X quite a lot. I don't know why, basically. She got 11.8, so maybe that was the traditional activist vote, the far left, traditional far left vote, and then the other ones it might be for another reason, basically. I mean, they all done pretty well. I've just asked the main reason people voted for them. Number one, the Israel-Gaza conflict, because of large population. So it was a protest vote against Labour, focus on foreign policy, because the Greens are, well, I would say they're in the right on that conflict. Not, what would you call it? So I can't call it anything like that here. Personal and local loyalty, a key factor. Claudia Webb, despite losing the Labour whip due to her harassment conviction, the harassment of another woman, but that's not put the far left off, it seems. She was a sitting MP and had a core base of support, particularly among left-wing Labour voters and local voters loyal to her previous platform. So it was a significant group of people. So Keith Vaz, he was the MP there for 32 years. His votes indicate a large number of voters were driven by personal loyalty to his family and his history, choosing him over both the National Labour and Tory options. The One Leicester Party was founded locally as a vehicle for his return. Disillusionment with mainstream parties. I was wanting to tell you about the other three. Anyway, back to looking at this. You get the picture. I mean, there's two separate factors. I think people will be switching to the Greens. One for the traditional Green reason, and one for a relatively new, well, it's not that new, say 75-year reason, although it's ramped up over the last few decades. Possibly because it's not concentrated enough to vote for a identity candidate, which is the opposite that Labour tell us we should be voting. But also their policies on immigration and maybe the conflict that's going on. That's not the right word for it, but I can't use the right word for it really. I'm trying to think of a lesser word, but I can't think of one. But I'm just amazed at all these places, all these inner cities and stuff, you know. You would think the Greens, it would be maybe uni areas, maybe countryside areas, but it's turned out it's like inner cities, you know. It's all Labour's Leeds, Leicester, East Lewisham North, Leighton, Liverpool. Look at Liverpool. I mean, that would have been unthinkable like even 10 years ago, I would have thought. Wavertree, Luton North. I mean, that's just solid Labour town traditionally, but that might have something to do with, you know, what's going on in the Middle East. Maybe an independent candidate hasn't turned up yet. I'm sure there will. Well, I'm not sure. I think. Manchester Central, Manchester Russell. This is just incredible. Norwich South. I mean, Nottingham East, Oxford East. I mean, this hasn't happened in Scotland yet, which I'm surprised about. Norwich. I mean, as I say, if you're far left, I think you should be voting Greens a long time ago, you know. But you've got your party about to come up as well. Nottingham East, Oxford, Poplar, Sheffield. Look at Sheffield, 3 of them. I mean, that's incredible. Stratford and Bow, Tottenham, Walthamstow, West Ham. I just can't believe it. And this is a different polling company, More in Common, and this is from 20th of October. But I mean, that was over a week ago for the Greens. That's a long time ago, because they've got 150,000 members now. They had about 60,000, I think, when Zack became leader. I mean, they might have more. I think they've got more than the Tories now. And we don't know about Labour. I mean, under Jeremy Corbyn, Labour had about 500,000, but probably more than that. But we don't know what Labour are now. They could be like 300,000, 200,000, and I don't know if that includes trade union people that don't even know their members or whatever. You know. So, yeah, here the Greens up 1 to 11%, but this company's a lot a lot more reserved on Greens anyway, but not Reform. Look, Reform are up to 33% there. Labour 21, I think that's too high for Labour. And the Tories as well. I think the Lib Dems are probably higher than that. Anyway, that's just what I was thinking just now. Like I say, it's amazing. If it was pre 1948, I'd probably vote Greens myself, but something else has come up that's the priority, I think. So you need to take every chance you've got to vote Reform. Council by-elections, any elections at all, vote Reform. Do YouGov polls, say you're going to vote Reform. When they ask you what 3 issues are most important to you, only select the one issue, if you're bothered about it. If not, just do whatever you do, you know. So, but I think people need to, I think most Greens, Labour, Lib Dems, SNP, they really need to be honest now, think of their grandchildren and stuff, and vote on one issue. And for the moment, you can only vote Reform as a Overton window shift on it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's relax the last few minutes. Let's relax. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Okay, goodbye.